So this is going to be 180 multi-voice test number 1. Proper names are Stephen, SR22, Army, Lloyd's, Lloyd's Pub, Ferguson, Mark, El Paso, San Antonio, Sheila. And I'm going to be Ms. Herman.
The witness,
Mr. Hughes.
Ms. Herman.
the witness,
Mr. Hughes.
And we start with questioning by Ms. Herman. Okay. Stephen didn't have a driver's license.
no.
Has he ever had one?
At one time he had one, but we tried to get it renewed or because it had been suspended apparently. I don't know the whole situation on that, but he did need to carry an SR22 before he could renew his license, and he never did.
How did he get to work?
When he worked, before he went to the Army,
No, after the Army.
he drove.
He drove.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the name of the bar that they were going to?
Lloyd's.
I think it's called Lloyd's Pub.
Lloyd's Pub. Is that near where y'all lived?
Yes, ma'am. About 4 miles from our home.
Had you ever been there before?
No, ma'am.
Had Stephen ever been there before?
No, ma'am.
How did y'all know about this bar?
We had seen it just right across from where we would rent movies.
Do you know if Ferguson or Mark had ever been there?
No, I don't.
So they were just sitting there and said, hey, let's go over to Lloyd's. And none of them had ever been there.
Well, they said, let's go somewhere and shoot pool. And Stephen said, hey, I saw this place down the street, Lloyd's Pub. And that's where they were going.
And this was about 12:30 that they left?
No, they left at 1.
At 1. And what did you do after they left?
I called my sister.
What did y'all talk about?
She told me she made something for me and just sister stuff, I guess. We talked about how drunk he was and that he shouldn't be going out there.
How long did you talk to your sister that time?
An hour.
When did Stephen and his friends come back?
2 o'clock.
What happened after they came back?
I tried to get off the phone. Well, I got off the phone with my sister and was putting out blankets for the guys to sleep on because they were staying the night. And then when I was through with that, I went to my room, took my cat to my bedroom, and Stephen followed me in there. And I had already taken out my contacts and was putting on my glasses, and he started pushing me around and telling me a bunch of stuff. How does that feel? Do you like that? Just abusive. And I said, Stephen, please leave me alone. And I walked him to the bedroom door and asked him to please stop and to leave. If he was going to be that way, just not even both to sleep. Come back in the room to sleep. He threatened to kill my cat. I pushed him out of the room and I shut the door, and I could hear him telling his friends that she's trying to tell me I can't sleep in my own bed when I pay the rent. I pay the bills around here. And that's when I thought I should leave.
What was you said he was pushing you?
Yes, pushing on my glasses and asking me, how does that feel? Do you like that? Huh?
Was he hurting you?
No, he was pushing on me, on my glasses.
Okay. What kind of things was he saying to you besides, how do you like that, or how does that feel? Did he say other abusive things to you?
That's when he threatened to kill my cat.
Did he not like your cat?
I don't think so. I think he used my cat as a way to get to me because my cat is my baby.
How long have you had that cat?
I had him since he was born in June.
Is that before you married Stephen?
Yes, ma'am. When I divorced my ex-husband, I took him with me.
Has Stephen ever been abusive towards your cat before?
He's threatened my cat along with myself before.
Nothing beyond threats?
Yes, ma'am, nothing beyond threats.
Okay, I believe you said earlier that he had also threatened to kill you.
Yes, he did.
On several occasions when you lived in El Paso?
Also when we lived here.
You mean here is San Antonio?
Yes.
Okay.
What happened after you pushed him out of the bedroom and shut the door?
He started telling his friends, she's trying to tell me I can't sleep in my own room when I pay the bills. He also called me a bitch, and that's when I decided to leave.
So what did you do?
I put on my tennis shoes and grabbed my cat and purse, and I left.
Where were you, excuse me, where were you planning on going?
To a hotel down the street.
Why didn't you go over to a friend's house like Sheila's house?
I didn't even think of it. If I had remembered to go to Sheila's house, I would have.
Did she live near you?
Yes.
Were there any motels or hotels near your apartment?
Yeah, pretty close to that bar.
Are you okay?
Down the street. Uh-huh.
You want to take a break?
It's up to you.
Yes, please.
Do you want to take a break and smoke a cigarette?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Are you ready? All right, this is going to be your multi-voice test number 2 at 180. Names are District Attorney's Office, Ms. Harris, El Paso County Jail, Honorable Judge Wise, Frank Gonzalez, Mary Harris, and Code of Criminal Procedure District Clerk. I'm going to be Mr. Jello?
Galo.
Galo, okay.
The witness?
The court.
I'm going to be Mr. Galo.
The witness?
The court.
And we'll start with questioning by Mr. Galo. So the question I have now then is, are you aware of a cause of death that's not alleged in this indictment that's been quashed, the manner and means?
Your Honor, I'm going to re-urge the objections I've alleged before. That goes into the attorney thought process, investigative work, relevance.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Is it common procedure in the district attorney's office to file a written announcement of readiness for trial subsequent to indictment prior to trial?
No, it's not.
Did you ever file written announcements of ready?
I don't believe this. I think this administration did at one point, but it stopped. It hasn't been doing so for, I don't recall. I think it's been more than a year,
Okay.
to the best of my recollection.
And your testimony from a moment ago is that you are still involved in an investigation of this case. Is that your testimony?
I'm involved in the prosecution of this case.
Are you involved in an investigation? In other words, still attempting to investigate?
To the extent the case has to go before the grand jury. That's called the grand jury. Some people phrase it a grand jury investigation. That's how I'm using it in that context.
Okay. And for this next grand jury, you have subpoenaed witnesses that did not testify in front of the first grand jury.
Your Honor, I re-urge the objection. That's the same question.
Yes or no is all I want.
I'm not sure that it's really relevant. The question is, were they prepared to go to trial on that first indictment within the 90 days?
All right. Now, if you don't know, simply say so, and I'll get this from somewhere else. But in fact, was not the date you mentioned, the 26th of January, 1996, you say that's the date that Ms. Harris was was arrested. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
In fact, isn't that the date that she was booked in the El Paso County Jail?
I don't know.
Well, you were here at the hearing on the writ of habeas corpus. She was in custody, was she not, as early as, well, on January 25th, 1996?
I don't recall.
Okay, do you recall whether or not the complaint for capital murder, which included the cause of death being blows to the head, was obtained from the Honorable Judge Wise on January 25th, 1996?
I don't recall.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask the court to take judicial knowledge of the testimony and the exhibits which were offered at the original writ hearing on or about February 12th, 1995.
If there's no objection, I'll take notice of that.
Would you agree with me that the date of arrest would be not necessarily the date that the defendant was booked in the county jail, but the date the defendant was taken into custody pursuant to an arrest warrant?
Like I said, I believe she was arrested on January 26th. As far as...
Okay, so what you're saying, Frank Gonzalez, is that you don't know.
I don't know.
All right, thanks. Now, is it your testimony that you were ready to go to trial from the date of the indictment, that is April 18th, until the date of what you consider being the 90th day, April 25th? you were ready during that period of time, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25th of April.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, are you aware, and if you're not, I guess we'll get someone else, are you aware of the date which Mary Harris was served with a copy of the indictment pursuant to the Code of Criminal Procedure?
Having reviewed your pleadings, I'm relying on your pleadings. You state in one of your motions it was April 25th. I don't have any personal knowledge as to when she was exactly served.
All right. Your Honor, I'd ask the court to take judicial notice, of the fact, I think, which we agreed on prior to the beginning of this hearing, that the defendant was served with a copy of the indictment pursuant to the Code of Criminal Procedure on April 25th, 1996, and that the return of that precept was filed with the district clerk on April 26th, 1996.
If there's no objection, I'll note that.
Okay, so at the very earliest, she would have been served on the 90th day following her arrest, perhaps the 91st day if you consider her arrest having occurred on January 25th. Is that a fair statement?
She was served on the 90th day. It was April 25th.
Okay, now you're aware, are you not, of the Code of Criminal Procedure provisions which mandate that a defendant in custody be served with a copy of the indictment by the district clerk. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
All right. In fact, the Code of Criminal Procedure provides that you can't even hold an arraignment until the expiration of at least 2 days after the defendant has been served.
Correct.
All right. So you really can't be ready for trial, can you, if the defendant can't be All right, this is going to be your multi-voice number one test at 160. Proper names: Albert Leon, Icy Springs Police Department, Great Peak Regional Narcotics Unit, North Circle Drive, Detective Bailey, Virgil, and Arthur Hendricks, Defendant Grenfeld, Hendricks's, Chevy, Citadel, The Package, and Arthur Hendricks. I'm going to be Mr. Patterson.
The witness?
Mr. Henley.
I'm Mr. Patterson.
The witness?
Mr. Henley.
And it is going to change because it's going to start with Mr. Patterson questioning, and then he'll pass the witness, and then Mr. Henley will question.
Okay.
All right.
Okay?
State your name.
Albert Leon. Okay.
All right. This is going to be your multi-voice test number one at 160 words a minute. Proper names are Albert Leon, Icy Springs Police Department, Great Peak Regional Narcotics Unit, North Circle Drive, Detective Bailey, Virgil and Arthur Hendricks, Defendant Grenfeld, Hendricks's, Chevy, Citadel, The Package, and Arthur Hendricks. And I'm going to be Mr. Patterson.
The witness?
Mr. Henley.
And I'm going to be Mr. Patterson.
The witness?
Mr. Henley.
And it'll change. Questioning attorney will be Mr. Patterson to start, and then it'll switch to Mr. Henley.
Okay. State your name and occupation, please.
Albert Leon.
What is your job?
I'm a detective for the Icy Springs Police Department, and I am currently assigned to the Great Peak Regional Narcotics Unit.
Where were you working on the date of January 31, 1986?
We had set up a surveillance at 2100 North Circle Drive for the purpose of observing Detective Bailey, who was attempting to purchase suspected cocaine from Virgil and Arthur Hendricks.
Had you talked with Detective Bailey before going there?
Yes, we had.
What did he say to you?
Objection. That is hearsay.
Detective Bailey has testified in this case, counsel. He testified at the preliminary hearing. I understand. I also understand that he is on vacation right now.
Let me say that I don't object to that being hearsay as far as the defendant Grenfeld is concerned. I think that goes to the probable cause he might have had to arrest them. So I don't object to that being hearsay. as long as he is talking about things he heard on January 31 prior to the arrest of the defendant.
All right. May he answer the question with no further objection?
Fine.
Prior to going to that location, Detective Bailey informed me that he had talked to the Hendrickses earlier and that they would meet him at a specific location. They would deliver the alleged cocaine in the same manner as on the previous trip.
Is that as specific as he was at that time?
Yes.
What did you do that day?
After setting up surveillance on Detective Bailey, we observed a blue Chevy van arrive. It stayed for 10 to 15 minutes. Then it left and we followed it over to the Citadel parking lot.
Who was in the Chevy van?
I assumed it was Virgil and Arthur Hendricks.
Object. We don't want any assumptions here, just positive identification.
What did the occupants of the Chevy van look like?
One was a white male with medium-length light brown hair.
And the other occupant?
I couldn't see him at that time. About that time, both parties left the van, but I could not see the second individual. One of the individuals went behind a store called The Package. When he came back towards the van, he was carrying a brownish green backpack. They both got back in the van and drove back to where Detective Bailey was parked.
Did they make contact with Detective Bailey at that time?
No. Both vehicles drove off and we followed them approximately 2 miles. We saw one individual get out of the van and go over to Detective Bailey. He gave us a hand signal and we closed in to make the arrest.
Did you frisk the suspects?
Yes, we found a small plastic bag with white powder in it and a sum of money that had been handed to Arthur Hendricks by Detective Bailey, approximately $500 in cash.
I have no more questions at this time. Your witness, counsel.
Officer, when you were watching this transaction, you were with someone else?
No, at that time I was by myself. My partner got out of the car back at the Citadel.
How long did it take from the time you left the Citadel until the time you stopped that car?
Probably 10 minutes.
Had there been any communication with you about the contents of the bag before you made the arrest?
No,
You didn't know what was in this bag, did you? Could it have been talcum powder, for instance?
it could have been, but that's not likely. Detective Bailey paid $500 for that white powder.
Just respond to my questions, officer, if you please.
His response was fully informative, counsel.
He was giving his opinion, not the facts, counsel. You say you placed the individuals under arrest at that time,
Yes,
and there were drugs discovered on their persons?
yes,
Where were those drugs found?
in their coat pockets.
Subsequently, you took the suspects down to the station?
Yes,
Did you subsequently learn that cocaine had been transported from one car to another
we learned that before we got to the station.
before you got to the station?
Yes.
Excuse me, counsel. I have another matter I would like to go into briefly. It will only be a few questions when you are through with your line of inquiry.
Is it something that should be taken care of right away?
No, it doesn't pertain to this line of inquiry. It has to do with disclosure of an informant.
Officer, was there an informant used in this case?
Yes, there was.
Would you tell us what the informant's involvement in this case was? I am not asking for names.
No.
All right, this will be your multi-voice test number 2 at 160. Proper names are Dr. Rashid, Dr. Ange, Allcare, Dr. Hufana, and MRI. I'll be Ms. Nessel.
The witness?
Mr. Hyman.
Ms. Nessel.
The witness?
Mr. Hyman.
Ang? Okay. And questioning begins with Ms. Nessel. They told you that
Yes, someone told me.
the doctors at Allcare?
Yes.
After you saw Dr. Rashid and before you saw Dr. Ang again, did you see anyone else at Allcare with regard to your ankle?
What is the date on that?
I saw
What were the dates you meant, counsel?
Between April 22nd and May 11th.
in May I saw Regarding my ankle, I saw Dr. Hufana.
But before you saw Dr. Hufana, did you see anybody else other than Dr. Ang and Dr. Rashid with regard to your ankle?
I don't remember. Did I see another doctor?
Right.
I don't remember.
On May 11th, 1993, did you see Dr. Ang again?
I saw Dr. Ang in May.
And did you discuss the MRI results with him?
He told me that he was going to. Did I discuss the MRI? I don't remember.
Did you tell him that Dr. Rashid told you that you had a small fracture?
I think I told him that Dr. Rashid told me I had a little fracture, I think. I don't know if I said Dr. Rashid said, but I told him that I had a little fracture, I think.
And did you discuss what the MRI results were at that point with Dr. Ang?
No.
Did Dr. Ang tell you he knew you had a fracture?
No.
Did he tell you he didn't know?
He told me
Go ahead, say what you were going to say.
He told me that he was going to refer me to an orthopedic doctor
For what?
to see my ankle.
Did he tell you that he was going to refer you to an orthopedic surgeon?
No.
Objection, misstating testimony.
It was a question. It was not a statement of testimony. Did he?
No.
It was an orthopedic doctor?
Yes.
Did he tell you you needed surgery?
When I saw the orthopedic doctor?
No, Dr. Ang.
Oh, no. He didn't.
And that was the May 11, 1993 examination. Is that right, counsel? Is that what we were referring to?
Right.
No, he didn't tell me I needed surgery.
Thank you.
Did Dr. Ang tell you what he expected the orthopedic doctor to do?
No.
Was that at the 5/11/93?
Right. And was the orthopedic doctor to whom you were referred Dr. Hufana?
Yes.
Did he make an appointment for Dr. Hufana with you that day,
If you recall.
if you recall?
I don't remember if it was that day. All I know is that I saw him in May.
And the next visit you had at All Care was with Dr. Hufana.
Yes.
And that would have been around May 27th, the end of May. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
And did Dr. Hufana look at your ankle?
Dr. Hufana looked at my ankle.
Did he touch it?
I don't remember, but
Did you discuss with Dr. Hufana the test that you had a fracture?
when I talked with Dr. Hufana, he told me that the fracture was mended and it wasn't nothing he can do, that I should exercise my ankle more. And he showed me how to do that. He said that usually
He said that usually what?
Go ahead. Say it.
he has his patients in a cast,
What do you mean?
up to a certain time in a cast.
Okay.
And that's it.
And
That's it.
did he criticize the fact that you strike that? Had you not been in a cast before this?
Objection, vague as to time.
Before, from the time that she injured her ankle, we're talking about 5 months. From January until May of 1993, had you been in a cast?
As opposed to a splint?
She's the one who used cast.
I don't recall her using cast as part of her testimony. She just said, but she did not.
Would you please stop? Can you please repeat her testimony about what Dr. Hufana said? Had you been in a cast from January of 1993 to May of 1993 at any time?
Only in January, a splint.
Did Dr. Hufana criticize the splint or cast or lack of cast that you had or did not have on between January and May of 1993?
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
That's fine.
What did you understand him to mean when he said he usually has his patients in a cast?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Go ahead.
I really don't know. Meaning,
That's fine. You've answered the question.
And he said that the fracture was mended.
yes.
Did he say that there was something